All right, let's talk this session about creating compensation structures that really are built to your values, or at least the culture of your organization. See, when employers set up compensation and total rewards packages, they do so for a specific reason in most cases. We ask people to come in to give their time and their talents and for a period of time in exchange for something of value. Now, what that something is can be defined by our compensation and our total rewards package. When you consider the term compensation, we typically have fixed in our mind what's important to us. So for most of us, it deals with the paycheck. For everybody else, there may be some other pieces that go into it as well, that go into the total rewards. It's not just the paycheck, but there are the insurance benefits, there's the pay time off, and other factors that really are compelling for a person to go to work at that organization. Now, examples of what we're talking about when we put together a total rewards package may include several things. So for example, compensation in the form of base pay is pretty much important to most employees. When we take a look at the employees and what they're coming to work for, most of us are just trying to keep the lights on, keep food on the table, keep the rent paid, and that takes money. And so our value proposition then, if those are the most important things to us in our life, really is to maximize our ability to exchange our time for the money in the form of direct compensation or the paycheck. Benefits can be included as part of the total rewards package too, as something of value, and this is especially important for people who have families, who have kids, or who have serious or just regular healthcare expenditures. That health insurance is important to them. Benefits packages could also include retirement accounts. And while that tends to matter less for younger employees, although it should matter to them just as much, it really is much more important to those individuals who are 40, 50s, or getting closer to those retirement ages. Then there's paid time off. And depending on what your schedule is or what your situation is, you may want to have that flexibility to be able to take the time off that you need to go recoup, to go take care of things, to take the time to be involved in church or community activities. That may be important. And then comes workplace flexibility. That's a total rewards package as well. When we consider when people go to work and what the value proposition is, their ability to be flexible in terms of how they work, when they work, that's important to a lot of folks. This is especially important to the younger generation, the Gen Y, or millennials as we call them sometimes. And that's because for them, again, life is not work. Life is life, and work is what we do to go pay for that life. And so in those cases, flexibility is really important. When I take a look at flexibility, one great example that I recall is this company here in Idaho, Smith Optics. They're based in Sun Valley, Idaho. Anybody who skis or does any kind of snow sports knows Sun Valley, Idaho. And so Smith's objective is to make sure that they hire the best people, and as long as they get the work done, they don't care when they work. And so down in the basement, they have lockers for snowboards, skis, mountain bikes, because when the powder's right, their mind is not going to be at work. Their mind is going to be up on the mountain. So they allow the flexibility to go up there, get the skiing in, come back, get the work done on their terms. And that's a really important part of what makes their retention so high. Now, as you suspect, there's several ways to package up and administer pay structures by organizations. And there are three primary influences that we talked about before: internal equity, external comparativeness or competitiveness, and the ability to pay as factors that go into how we build and how we compensate in our organizations. However, there are other cultural objectives that also go into structural pieces of how the compensation program is administered. And so some of these approaches to managing compensation may include, for example, a step and grade program. This is common to a public sector or union environment. The goal is really to focus on equality, this sense of fairness and equity. The outcome is typically that they reward people for their longevity, because the longer you're there, the further up in the schedule that you go. The pros to this is that it's very structured. It's typically easy to understand where you're at and how it works and where you fall within the system. The con to this kind of a system is that it's not really ideal for high performers, nor is it really influential in creating a high performance type of a culture. Because, you're there, here's your spot, and you go up a step a year every year while you're there. Some of the variations exist. Some variations may be to place somebody at a higher level within the pay grade, depending on their background, their experiences, their qualifications. But really, it's a pretty structured system. ways to earn more money. Typically, there's a cost of living adjustment that's provided where everybody just gets a standard 2%, 3%, whatever the cost of living adjustment is that's assessed, and that's an across-the-board type of an increase. There may be performance-based increases, where based on a performance appraisal, they may get a certain percentage increase to their base. In other situations, they may be able to go up 1 step or maybe 2 steps depending on their level of performance. They may have bonuses built in that are non-recurring, so they would have to earn that money year after year. So there are some different variations to that. Another type of structure that's pretty common is what's called the broadband structure. And that's similar to the grade and step, where you have different positions at different levels and different steps there. But instead of making them fairly narrow ranges, they broaden them. So they create a broad band that includes a lot more positions to create additional flexibility. It allows greater growth for individuals so they don't see a very narrow approach to creeping up the ladder. The pros are that those individuals who are high performers love it. They can get in there, they can perform well and not be hindered by a range max or some kind of a cap, and so the high performers are benefiting from it. And from an administrative perspective, with fewer ranges to manage, there's less work involved typically to create that kind of a structure. The cons, however, are that the companies may overpay for the labor. So you may have a secretarial position where the market says pay here, but because of where they are in the broadband range, you may end up paying a super high premium. And if you want to do that, that's great. But if you don't want to do it, that could be a downside to it. Another con is where people have built in limits within their broadband. So they'll say, hey, you're in this band, but then you're in this sub-band. Then you're in the sub-band. And so really, while you're part of this big band, your maximum earning capability is only to about here. And so, it hinders the ability for people to really advance if they hit those limits. Largely the ways that they earn more money in these situations are similar to those in grade and steps. Pay for performance, including base increases, bonuses, etc. Those are some different ways. Another approach that we've talked about is the commission structure, where quite simply, they get a percentage for what they sell. There may be some variations to this, such as a base plus commission, so there's some kind of a safety net so they know that they're taking home at least this much at the end of the month. That's typically to make their spouse happy, to know that it's not all at risk and that they are going to be able to at least cover the cost of their health insurance and maybe put some food on the table if things don't go well that month for sales. But a compensation structure is really the purest pay-for-performance system that there is. You sell more, you earn more. That's really what it's based on. Now, there are some commission systems that are built on department performances, organizational performances. Gain sharing is an example, if you've heard that term before, and that's really a pay-for-performance system on an organization-wide basis, that as the organization does better, than everybody shares in the wealth. But really, it's strictly a percentage of how much you sell is how much you make. Now, the pros are, again, it's a true pay-for-performance system, so if you have a high performer who loves to just jump in and go make a ton of money, they can do that. The cons, one of them is, as an employer, if you're not willing to pay a lot of money for some of these real go-getters and high performers, you're going to be a little leery or a little much uncomfortable, shall we say, with the amount of money that you go on paying these individuals. Where the market says you should be paying this person here because of their high sales, you may be paying them up to here. Now, granted, they're earning that for you. So this is an individual who's making high sales. And so just be prepared that as they make more and more sales, you're going to have to share more with them. That's just a consideration. Now, the other con to this is that it also creates a free agent type of environment, where you have the individual performer who's not really focused on team, because team doesn't equal his commissions or her commissions. It's really an individualized type of an incentive. And so individuals will oftentimes do things that may be unethical or immoral to get more sales or to get more compensation. So you have to take some of those pieces into account as well. Now, as you understand more and more of these different systems and understand some different styles of approaching compensation structures, you're going to see that there are different variations that you can play with. As you go out there and you identify what types of compensation systems are on the market, there are literally thousands, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of different variations and tweaks. Maybe not that many. But really, the sky's the limit on how you want to structure it. The keys here are to make sure that you have some kind of an internal equity structure to make sure that people are paid fairly one to the other, that there's some kind of market variable so you can be sure that you're at least paying what the market says you should be paying, and that if you're earning a lot more as a company, you ought to share some more with the employees. You'll see a massive impact on morale and overall performance. So keep it simple, keep it structured in a way that helps support your goals and objectives, and most of all, keep it legal based on some of the laws that we've talked about thus far. So if you have any questions on what we talked about in this little mini lecture, just post them below this link and I'll respond to them. Thanks.